In one of the first lessons in this series, I showed you how to create labels, which is really just a nice quick way of finding some old messages, things that you know you might want to refer to and you don't want to have to go searching for it. And the fact that you can label things, it's like putting a stamp on it, makes it very easy for Gmail to search for that. You can just go to over here on the left side where a bunch of labels are, and for example, I keep all my attendance somewhere, so if I see a kid missing and I'm trying to remember, gosh, was maybe he on a field trip or something, I can go right to here and I don't need to search real hard for that. And of course, we can automate the process of labeling things, and I'll show you that as part of a filter. But as messages come in, you can also just throw a label on it very easily. And there's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to show you, and then you can just kind of figure out which way works best for you. It might depend on the kind of message that you're doing. But if you are able to look at a message and just tell from the subject line what it is, and this happens a lot where you don't need to read it, you can just tell, you can throw a message on or a label on there very easily. For example, maybe I'm just going to pretend here, maybe I want to take this AP Physics 2 label and throw it on this top message here. So I'm going to go over to my label list, I'm going to click and drag and just dump it right on top of this message, and boom, I've attached that label on there. Okay. Another way to do that is to grab the message and take it over to the label. However, what that does is it archives it at the same time. So maybe I don't need to read this, but I do want to hang on to it in case I need to refer to it later. So I grab this message and I drag it over here, and Gmail calls it moving, but I don't really like the idea because it's just in the archive, thrown with everything else in the archive. It just happens to have the stamp on it that goes with that label. Okay, so that's how you do that from kind of your home page. And if you want to look at an actual message, so there's really no good messages here that I would want to do, but let's see. I'll just pretend here. So here's a message. See, now I've opened it, and I've got some other options here at the top. I can still drag, for example, if I want to call this AP Physics, I can still drag it there, and it becomes one of the labels. This also has the label of inbox because it's still in the inbox. But when the message is open, I can label it this way. So you see how it's already got a check mark next to that, and maybe I can, again, I'm just kind of pretending here, so I'll put a check mark on this one, and maybe further down here, I'll put it on notes, and then I just hit apply, and it's got all those labels on there. Now, if I change my mind and I want to get rid of one of the labels, I can just hit the X right here. Did you see I was hovering over the X? And away it goes. And if I want to label it and archive it at the same time, then here's the move to. So now I only have one choice because I can't move it to multiple places, but if I've already labeled it with everything that I want to label it with except for maybe one, then if I move it to there, it adds that label and archives it. So maybe I'll just click that. And yeah, I'm actually doing this. These aren't real labels that I want. I'm going to go back in later and undo it. But I think maybe for this one, I'll just undo it right now. See how that's nice in Gmail? They always give you a chance to kind of double check your work, make sure you didn't do something by mistake. And if you ever have, there's always a possibility of going back in and removing labels or stars or whatever you've done. So nothing is really ever permanent in Gmail except for deleting your trash, and we'll do that at some point later in one of the lessons. And they give you a warning like, hey, you're about to do this, and this is not changeable, but everything else is something that you can undo. So there's some quick ways of labeling and unlabeling things. So hopefully that helps you organize some of the messages that are arriving in your inbox.